Front sway bar disconnects on an R50 Pathfinder. Is it possible? Check this out. There it is. Top and bottom. How's it done? Pull the pin out. Slide it up into the other hole. It's hard to do with one hand here. And push it in. Just like that. Now it's able to move slightly. Where'd the idea come from? Came from the FJ. Check this out. There it is. Disconnecting sway bar link. Top and bottom. Pull out the pin. It's free. It just will slide along that bolt. Nissan Pathfinder front disconnecting sway bar links. Why have them? Very simple. Softer ride, more flex off-road. Each tire can act independently. The suspension is freed up from the other side. It's much softer ride off-road, more flex as well. And that is key to getting where you need to go and handling rougher terrain. So, what are some of the advantages of disconnecting links? Or not even having a sway bar? Let's check it out. When you're on road and you have your links or your sway bar there, your handling is good and you don't have any body roll. Well, it's still there, but it's very little, right? When you take them off, the links off, or take off your sway bar, your handling is much worse and you have lots of body roll, and it's very noticeable and unnerving, and it's not a very good feeling. You can get used to it, but some people who ride with you might start to feel sick a little bit, and you definitely are going to be driving a little bit slower. It's just a fact of the matter. Off-road, when your links are on, your ride is very harsh. As one tire hits a bump, it actually moves the whole vehicle to that direction to compensate. That sway bar is actually keeping those wheels even and doesn't want one wheel to go up too far apart from the other one. So the whole body reacts. And it's very harsher ride. Also, you have less flex. I mean, that's flex you can't flex because that sway bar is actually holding those together and trying to keep them even. And so forth, you have definitely a lot of flex. Get rid of your links or get rid of your sway bar, you get a softer ride, you have much more flex. Again, each side can handle each bump individually. Exactly what we're talking about, why I have this. So with links or no links, there's limitations on on-road, off-road, and that's where disconnecting come in. You can have the best of both worlds. You can have good handling on road. You can have no body road on the road when they're connected. You can disconnect them and you get a soft ride and more flex off-road. That's the whole point of them. So how is this designed? I'll give you a quick run over. Here's my nice drawing down here, but here's actually the real thing in my hand. So really quickly, we got M12175 cap screw. This happens to be 220 millimeters in length. So I also got nylon nuts, top and bottom here, M12175s. We got rod end or hind bolts. We got two of them, top and bottom, 12 millimeters. We have a 12 millimeter bearing sleeve down here. I also use another sleeve on top to put the hole through. Two R-clips. They are R-clips, so I bent them 90 degrees to make it a little bit easier to push in. And then I have a couple extra nuts here, top and bottom, just to help align on the strut and the sway bar a little bit better. I ground this one down a little bit. You don't need to do that. I did, just to try to help make it more vertical and work a little bit better. The top hole, I put 4.75 inches up to this guy. That's the maximum travel. The bottom hole just depends where you want to drill it. I use the sleeve. You could have used your bearing. You could have drilled it anywhere, but you drill all the way through. So that's how it's designed. Connected, it's in the bottom hole like that. Disconnect, pull it out, move it up to the top hole, put it in. Let's see if I can do this without hurting myself. There you go. And now it's disconnected. Now it's able to move up and down freely and yet hold on to that sway bar without it having a drop. That's the whole purpose of this design, is it's actually holding up sway bar on both sides and then yet allowing it to slide. So you have this much travel, probably about 4 or 5 inches of travel of sway, and that's what gives you the disconnecting or the softer ride, more flex off-road. So here's a quick demo on how this works. Obviously this is not connected to the car. I'm holding this in my hands. There would be a sway bar connecting these two down here, and would come out, the sway bar go back. Let's say this is driver's side, passenger side. Passenger side hits a bump, the tire, it would actually just raise up and cause the driver's side to slide. And then once that bump's gone, it would just slide back down again and be back in position. The same thing is true on the driver's side. If this would raise up, it would just make it slide up just the same way and then back down. So that's the disconnecting part. When they're down connected, obviously when one goes up, it's going to directly affect the other immediately. Disconnected, you have the slide motion, and that's how it works. At the same time, it holds the sway bar link in air. Without this, the sway bar link would actually fall down and hit your CV axle or boot, or if you try to raise it up, it's going to hit the, it actually will bind up into your strut or your brake line. There's really no room for it. So the sway bar link, the sway bar has to be held up in position the whole time. That's why this design works so well. It holds it up in position, and yet it allows it to be disconnected at the same time. So what are some of the disadvantages of this? Well, you have to switch it back and forth. You have to literally get out of the car, and you have to switch back and forth. So that's the first disadvantage. You have to pull this out, put it in. It's kind of clunky when it's disconnected. That's another disadvantage. It's going to slide up and down and make a sound. You can't really hear it sometimes. It depends how much lubrication you have on there. I don't hear it, but you can hear it. If you're going down the road really quickly, another disadvantage is that sway bar, let's see, if this is on the driver's side, the passenger side hits a bump, this can come up really fast and actually knock out the ball from the heim joint. That can happen as well. Then you have to fix it, or it'll be really clunky then. You'll hear it binding all the time until you get home and fix it. There is a fix for that. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but that's something else can happen. It's also messy, oily. You can see this has been off my vehicle for a while. It's still got oil on it. My hands are so dirty from it. You get out and pull the pin and put it back in, it's gonna have oil in your hands. You have to oil this thing because it's just, metal on metal, basically on copper sleeves, and it will start to rust and bind. You got to keep the whole thing lubricated, and this is sliding up and down too, and you have to make sure you have to have some lubrication on that to keep that sliding and not bind up on rust or something like that. So that's the disadvantages of it. It's well worth it in my opinion. I certainly would still build these and use them. It's worth the disadvantages because the amount of flex and the softness off-road is incredible. It doesn't look like a lot of flex, it only looks like maybe 5 inches or so, but it's actually so important because it gives you 5 inches that one tire is going to rise up before it even starts engaging the other tire with the sway bar. And that's a lot. That's a big deal. That's mostly what you're riding on all the time, except for hitting big rocks or something really large. But 5 inches on one side, the other side can also go up to 5 inches. It's fantastic. So some modifications that need to be done is you have to remove or bend the strut tab. There's a little tab that's on the strut. You have to be bented or be moved out of the way. Otherwise, the sway bar can run into it. You can weld the hind bolts. I did spot welds around the area to keep the sleeves from popping out as easy. So far, I've done that on my wife's FJ. It's been successful. Probably hotter welds I could probably use, but I don't want to actually cause any warpage. But you can actually put spot welds on here and it helps hold that hind bolt in. That's something else you can do. And another thing you do is this top is to keep it from binding the brake line. There's a little tab that holds the brake line on your strut. If the sway bar goes any higher than this, it actually will hit your brake line and can possibly break it. But if you relocate that mount point for your brake line, you can actually go higher with this. You actually remove it completely and you get more flex. So that's another thing you can do as well. That's basically it for the disconnecting sway bar links for the R50 Pathfinder. It's definitely a good modification. I highly suggest building one of these. It's totally worth it. I still use it on my wife's FJ. I don't use it on my Pathfinder anymore just because it's more of a dedicated trail rig, but this was awesome. And if I was going to drive it more on the road, I definitely would put these back on. So I highly recommend it. It's a great modification. And there you have it. Thanks for watching.